G'day. It's time to down your unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to episode 211 of the Art of War Down Under podcast. It's always at nauseum. My name's Adam Camilleri, and as promised, as certified fresh as this book may or may not be, I am here to review the Imperial Agent Codex, joined by the gentleman who said he'd do it with me. Welcome to the show, Jeremy. How you doing, brother?
Thanks for having me, mate, as always. I'm excited. Sounds like you're a little bit tentatively cautious to see how we go, but I'm keen.
So
I sell people on this codex.
I actually think we're going to. So and we're already jumping into the hot takes. I'm frustrated that this book exists. Not that it exists in totality, that it exists in the slot that a full-fledged player base could have gotten their codex. Rather than, I mean, there's like a core handful of people who are really like enthusiastic about Imperial Agents and Inquisition and stuff like that. And then there's people who just like have gathered a certain amount of models over the years. But then you look at that, and then you look at like the thousands of people who play Eldari, Astra Militarum, so many other factions that have huge player bases that don't have their codex. And now we're not going to get another codex till next year. And the last one, we got to stay with the taste in our mouth that we have Imperial Agents as the last one of 2024 with 3 months till the next one. And they're like, why didn't we give no offense, a real faction?
Yeah, that's fair. I certainly can relate to people that feel that way. I mean, it's an interesting codex in that you would have thought in some ways, to me, it feels like it's designed more to be an actual army. When you would have thought that this would be just a collection of the allied units that Imperial armies could take in there as allies. But just the way the book's designed, it to me, it seems like they've put most of their emphasis on actually making it a possible, actual, fully fledged army, which I'm excited about. But there's not many people out there that would be identifying as Imperial Agent players.
Well, at some point, someone said this to me, and I'm starting to come around to it, because I actually don't think this is a bad book. Straight off the bat, when I first saw this book, I was very dismissive, because I saw the units that were in it, and I saw the dejectedness of a lot of Death Watch players and such, and so I was quite dismissive of it. But the more I've unpacked it, the more I think there is actually meat on the bone here. I'm not sure how good it is, but it is far more an interesting codex than you would assume on first glance. And I'm hopeful, because I have also heard some conjecture from many other sources that they're like, man, I really hope they bring out a Chaos version of this where you can put, various demon factions and Chaos Space Marines and maybe Chaos cults and, wheeled Traitor Guardsmen and stuff like that. And this is kind of the Imperial Yannari book, if you wanted to look at it like that as well, where this is the place where you can bring a myriad of different factions into one. But it's also going against what GW have done for competitive play and matched play for the last probably 4 or 5 years, because this is predicated on soup. It's predicated on souping a myriad of different factions in together to make a list, right?
Yeah, and they've done away with it, in the second half of 9th. And I just, as much, I kind of liked souping, but I understand that they decided that it was just too difficult for balance to allow it.
Yeah.
But when you kind of return to it with this, it raises the same questions of, you're going to have the same issues here. But we'll see how we go. I would have liked to have seen an Imperial Agents army be allowed to actually ally in other Imperium armies.
Yep.
Take 500 points of Marines or take 500 points or Guard. But, maybe that's just too much. So let's just be happy with what we have. But it is something that's returning to a paradigm that they kind of seem like they did move away from.
I think you can take knights in Imperial Agents.
You can take knights, you can.
Yeah. But you're right. It would have been cool to be able to just, slam in a little bit of from my point of view, like a chaplain with some Dark Angels allied in with an Inquisitor hunting some Fallen. That sounds like a, matchup made in heaven. It could be really cool. Or representing the battle for the First War of Armageddon, where you've got Inquisition, Grey Knights, and Space Force together. That sounds awesome as well.
That would have been cool, but it would have just been hard to do. But maybe they could have just said, you're well, in the same way that you can, Chaos armies can ally from the Demons Codex or Demons Index, You could have just said you can ally from any Imperial Codex in the same kind of way. You're just allying in units that don't gain their own army, their own normal army rule. They just basically the data sheets.
Well, that would be a bit rough, seeing as this army doesn't have an army rule. Hey, what a segue.
Well, that's true.
So we're going to start this review off now. Of course, if you want to catch the second part of this, which is going to be the Imperial Agents Q&A, and also some list writing between me and Jeremy, come over to AOWdu Down Under over on Patreon. Hope to see you there. If you have an Imperial Agents Codex in your little hands and you want to follow along, we're starting on page 75. Jez, feel free to TLDR the army rule, because it's not much of an army rule.
Yeah, well, basically, you basically gain if your army is Agents of Imperium, then you can. I'm just trying to work out what you can do. It's basically just allowing you to. Your army rule is allowing you to put these units in an Imperium army.
Yes.
So you gain nothing from it.
You gain absolutely nothing. It was they're just enshrining the thing we could do before, but now with different restrictions on how many models you can have per. And then the other part of the army rule is letting you use the detachments in this book. It's like, okay, so I bought the book, and the book allows me to use the detachments in the book of the book I bought.
Yeah.
It seems very silly to me. I assumed there'd be something in here like your Inquisitors can pick to be Hereticus, Xenos, Malleus or whatever, and they get a different buff and give you something to your army. But none of that. And the numbers we really care about here is in Strike Force games, you can have 2 retinue units, you can have 2 character units, and you can have 1 requisition units. And you'll discover more about those when we get to the data sheets. But were you disappointed with this army rule?
Yeah, well, it's essentially, if you're looking at the army as though it is you're wanting to play it as your full faction, you're not getting one. Obviously, you do have that rule that allows you to swap out assassins, which is kind of cool, but it's. I would have liked to have seen something like you just said, or just some sort of general. At the start of a game, pick some sort of specification and gain a. Kind of like how what you would do at the moment with, certain armies like Black Templars that get to pick a vow,
or T-Sons,
like something like that, where you just say, I'm gonna pick a specific kind of, mission that I'm on, and it gives you a certain advantage. It couldn't be too strong, but just in the theme of Inquisition, like you could gain stealth on the first battle round. Another one could be. You gain sustained hits I don't know, like just whatever. Yeah. Just things to make it spicy, give you a little bit of uniqueness, which I think is what this army wants to do.
Agreed. All right, on to the first attachment, Auto Xenos Alien Hunters. I'll give you guys the detachment rule. And Jeremy can tell me how different this stuff is from what Deathwatch already had, because this is Deathwatch's essentially detachment. At the start of your command phase, you can select one of the mission tactics listed below until the start of your next command phase. That mission tactic is active, and all its effects apply to Deathwatch units from your army. Each mission tactic can be used once per battle. Furor tactics, which is you all gain sustained hits 1. Malleus, which is lethal hits, and Purgatus, which is precision ability. So once per game, all your models will get the relevant one. Lethal hits, sustained hits, and precision on crits, of course, and Purgatus. Not the worst mission tactic that we've ever had, right? It's actually not too bad for a detachment rule.
No, it's not, and it was pretty similar to what I think it is what they had before.
I think it's exactly the same.
So it's fine. It is what it is.
Fair. I'm actually going to open the Deathwatch Index as well, just so we can compare and contrast. But take us into the first of the enhancements, my man.
So the first one, it's a new name. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen that as an enhancement. Universal Anathema. Agents of the Imperial model only. Melee weapons equipped by the bearer have the anti-infantry 2+ and anti-monster 4+ abilities.
Yep, that is new. I'm just looking at the old ones. How do you feel about it?
It's pretty milk toast on the. It doesn't I don't really know. I mean, you probably give it to maybe a Watchmaster, just so he's. But he already has Lance and Strength 6. It makes him okay at killing kind of big monsters. But if it was anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4+, it would be a lot more interesting.
Yeah, way better.
Yeah,
then, way better. All right. Next one is Blackweave Shroud, Agents of the Imperial model only. The bearer has a 4+ feel no pain, which is pretty juicy. Like, I mean, that makes me want to try and take a single character to just deep strike into people's backfields, go behind enemy lines on that turn or engage or just try and be a nuisance. But I'm not sure that is where this book is at anyway. I don't think there is a character who is durable that can go and do such a thing, but we'll unpack that more. Do you think it's any good?
Well, the prime candidate, I guess, would be on a Watchmaster because he's, if I'm not mistaken, 6 wounds and a 2-up armor save.
Yep.
So it makes him a bit tougher, but I don't know. Like, if you've got the points, you probably, and you may as well just do it. But it's not something you would like. It doesn't draw you to this detachment. It's not that amazing.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, which one was that called?
That was the Blackweave Shroud.
Where is that? Apologies. That is 15 points, and the previous one was 10 points. And then the last two are 20 and 25. So Beacon Angelus is 20, Amulet is 25.
Okay.
Does that make you change your mind at all? That they're dirt cheap at least? These first two are 10 and 15?
I wouldn't. I think that the first one tends if you have 10 free points. I think Blackweave Shroud's okay for 15, but
I think it's fine for 15.
Yeah.
Beacon Angelus, mate, tell us about it.
All right, so Watchmaster only models in the bearer's unit have the deep strike ability. In addition, you can target the bearer's unit with a rapid ingress stratagem for 0 CP.
Exactly as it was.
So you take this because, if you're taking this detachment, you're obviously taking lots of kill teams and they don't have deep strike, and giving them deep strike is good. And the rapid ingress for 0 CP is just like a bonus.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's good.
Last, we have the Amulet of the Auto Chastisement. To Watchmaster only. At the start of your opponent's shooting phase, select one enemy vehicle, excluding Titanic units within 12 of invisible to the bearer. The unit must take a leadership test. If that test is passed until the end of the phase, each time model that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. If it's failed, they are not eligible to shoot at all. And that is the 25-pointer. But a leadership test a leadership test to just not shoot at all is kind of sick and kind of rare in the game. But you need to be pretty close. You need to be 12 inches away. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Changeling. If the Changeling rolls a 6, you can't attack. But this one, it's just they've just got to fail a leadership test. It's pretty interesting if you ingress the unit and then you end your the movement phase of their turn. And you set it up, and then at the start of the shooting phase, you activate it. So you can kind of have it so the Watchmaster, they can just see, maybe that one vehicle, and that vehicle, the only thing that can see that unit is that vehicle. And that vehicle might have lined up wanting to shoot something else.
Yeah.
So basically what it lets you do is potentially just turn off the shooting of the whole unit. That's obviously pretty strong. The problem with it is it's very situational because they need to have, really valuable vehicles that aren't Titanic. So you're kind of thinking of things like, repulsors, kind of gladiators, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Vindicator maybe. But if they just rip the leadership test, it isn't amazing, and you've kind of built a whole play around this. I don't know. I think it's pretty mediocre. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty mediocre too. I think it's not the worst I've ever seen, but I would much rather this be 20 or even 15 points for the fact that a lot of the time it's going to be a one use because you're going to have to strike down, try and use it. And the thing you use it on might just turn around and kill you anyway, or you just make yourself a target. This is the same as it was in the index as well. I would point that out. And I have yet to have heard of a Deathwatch player who was taking this previously. So there is that. And I would like to say, I'm just going to say it off the top because it needs to be said, overall, comparing the index enhancements to the Codex enhancements, these enhancements are an absolute downgrade from the
previous. They lost that. What was the one call that gave them the extra the damage? What was it called?
So they had the Tome of the Extraclades.
Yeah, not the Tome, and then there was the other one, the
Thief of Secrets, which is similar to the first one. Improved the strength, damage, and armor pen of the bearer's melee weapons by 1. If an enemy was destroyed,
that's so good. Strength, damage, and armor pen.
Yeah, so good. Really good. Just everything a Watchmaster wants. Strength 6 to Strength 7 is a great break point. Armor pen it's 2 to 3 on the armor pen. And the damage goes from 2 to 3 as well. It just made him an absolute blender. But that one is gone, and the Tome of the Ectoclades is gone as well. And of course, that one is gone because, as we're about to see, you don't have Oath of Moment anymore, right?
No.
If you play this detachment. Yeah, so you're playing Death Watch, and they're the first Space Marine faction, doesn't have Oath in the Codex. Not that I think Grey Knights are going to get it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That needs to be said now, because everything you're thinking about what Space Marines can do, a lot of what Space Marines do is predicated on using Oath correctly. All right, into the strats, first of which is Armor Contempt. We all know what that is. Moving on. Next is Adaptive Tactics. It's 1 CP. All these are 1 CP, rather. It's in your command phase. It's 1 Death Watch infantry unit from your army. Select one of the tactics, the detachment tactics, that being Furor, Malleus, or Pegardus. Until the end of your next command phase, that tactic is active for your army instead of any other ones that were active. I believe that's exactly the same as it is in the index.
Yeah, and it was fine then.
Yeah, it's still good.
And it's fine now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still absolutely fine. What's the next one?
The next one is Hellfire Rounds. 1 Death Watch infantry unit. You do it in your shooting phase, and basically they gain, except Devastating Wounds weapons, gain anti-infantry 2+ and anti-monster 5+.
Yep.
And you can't do it along with any of the other round stratagems. So you can't mix it with another special ammunition, which obviously makes sense.
Yep, and it'll be the same for the next 2 strats as well. This used to say up to 2 kill teams units from your army can be selected that have not been selected to shoot. So you could pock Hellfire Rounds on 2 units for 1 CP. And that is the same for Kraken and Dragonfire Rounds. So they're both gone from 2 to 1. Dragonfire Rounds is pretty much exactly the same wording, but give you assault and ignores cover. And of course, can't be used with any of the other rounds. I really like Dragonfire Rounds. Assault a lot of the time just lets you get on an objective or get someone off an objective because you needed to advance to see around the corner. And then ignores cover is just like +1 AP in all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, Dragonfire Rounds, like, it sounds kind of dog water on the surface, but when you factor in that Watchmasters give you advance and charge,
correct,
you're going to be advancing a lot. So Dragonfire Rounds just activates advance and shoot. So it is actually quite relevant because it's often just going to be allowing you to shoot when you weren't going to. So
yeah,
it's not horrible.
Yeah, not horrible. All right, next up.
Kraken Rounds probably one of the better strats in the for Death Watch. Well, this detachment, you activate in the shooting phase 1 Death Watch infantry unit, and you gain additional AP and increased range by 6. What's worth noting is that it's gone back to its original wording from before the FAQ, which changed it to only work on bolt weapons. So this works on their special, like their heavy weapons. So this works on the frag cannons and their what are they called? The heavy flamer combis.
Yeah, the frag cannons or whatever they're called. Yeah, those ones.
Yeah, so this is pretty good, to be honest.
Infernus bolters, yeah. So I will let you know, I did go and check the balanced data slate before we started doing this episode, and those restrictions are still in play.
Are they still there?
They're still in the Death Watch section, and I 120% want the entire Death Watch section of the balanced data slate deleted.
But does that even apply though? Because this isn't Death Watch.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because this is not Death Watch. So I'm of the opinion you should. I mean, if you're playing Imperial Agents and you came up to me and said, "I'm pretty sure this doesn't affect it," I'd be like, "Dude, you deserve all the help you can get. 100%, not in effect."
Well, I mean, I don't know. I would argue that it.
I would argue it too.
The Death Watch section is defunct because the Death Watch don't exist. So
correct.
They might do it, make it put it into play, but then it just becomes absolute trash.
Yeah,
because we'll talk about it later when we get to the data slate for the kill teams. But you're not really going to be taking kill teams with bolters. It's just not going to be a thing you do.
No,
so
it's not.
This is only good if it works on the frag cannons, and if it doesn't, it's just trash. So I imagine they probably won't FAQ it.
Yeah, because kill teams right now, and even right now in people playing Death Watch now, kill teams is just windmill slamming as many special weapons into a 10-man as you can. Be that melee or shooting, and probably
and the reason is that they did nerf it before is that this was good on the special kill teams that had
correct,
all the heavy intercessors and all types of bolt weapons that you could get in the units, whereas now they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I 100% would argue that none of that's relevant anymore. Until an Imperial Agents section comes out in the balanced data slate, these guys are no longer Codex Index Deathwatch, and so therefore none of this stuff affects them. So as in, like, those stratagems affect all weapons.
And then why it's important, I'll just mention it because if we're making that assumption, is the actual frag cannon. It's got a rapid fire D3 rule, but you can't. I think it's 18-inch range, so you can't deep strike within its rapid fire range. So what this lets you do is it locks in rapid fire on deep strike, which doubles its output in addition to giving you the additional AP. So it makes them very good.
Because they're strength 7 -1 2 damage now, yeah.
I believe so. D3 and their D3 shots blast with rapid fire D3.
Yep. And then, I mean, alternatively, you can use Dragonfire round to try and advance into that range with it ignores cover, which, can seem like the +1 AP as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yep. Yeah, Kraken rounds is the bee's knees. And here is the best stratagem, I believe, in this index. Called it an index. It's Codex now, maybe. Rapid tactical relocation. End your opponent's fight phase, 1 Inquisitor or Deathwatch infantry unit from your army. So anything that has an Inquisitor attached to it, essentially. Remove your unit from the battlefield in the reinforcement step of your opponent's in your next movement phase, rather, you just deep strike it back in. You cannot select a unit that is in engagement range. So anything that's not in engagement range, you just take it off the board at the end of your opponent's fight phase and deep strike it back down. I think this is my favorite strat, and I think it's sick.
Yep, it's obviously very good in that it, unlike some of and this is a problem with this particular detachment, is that all the other strats only work on Deathwatch. Yeah. So you're using all your strats exclusively on these one data sheet. This allows you to use this on a lot more units because you'll have Inquisitors attached to some of your chaff units.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to, maybe an Inquisitorial Agents unit, or maybe you'll have it in a Breacher unit, whatever it might be. You can even just an Inquisitor on their own, maybe. Like, I don't know. You'll be able to do this to set up objective play, mission play. You could even do it on an Inquisitor in a unit of like 5 Terminators, like Kodiaz in a Terminator unit.
100%.
There's some cool things you can do.
Yeah. What I imagine is, though, the Deathwatch kill team you're talking about, with all the frag cannons, deep strikes down, uses Kraken rounds, blows something up, smashes a flank, picks up something decent, maybe tries this 9-inch charge, doesn't make it, end of your opponent's next turn, pick it up, redeploy it, do it again. And it's just kind of, I think that could get very frustrating from some opponents, because you can make the kill teams pretty durable. But that's the end of the detachment, mate. How do you feel about it as a whole?
I think it's good. I think if you want to play Deathwatch, you're obviously going to pick this detachment. And when I say obviously, I'm saying if you're playing like 4 to 5 kill teams, because as we will eventually get to the fleet detachment at the end, a lot of detachments that play with the fleet might still run 2 to 3 Deathwatch kill teams.
Yeah.
But if you're wanting to run 4 or 5, you probably run, because I think it's Armor of Contempt's also very good. So being able to get value out of like your kill teams, really get that survivability, get that relocation, get a bit of extra damage. This is a very good detachment if you are running, I would say, like 5 kill teams.
Yep, I agree. All right, next up, this is the Order Hereticus Purgation Force, which is the pseudo, sisters one. The detachment readout Heresy, range weapons equipped by Adeptus Arbites, Inquisitors, Inquisitorial Henchmen, and Ordo Hereticus. Models from your army just have ignores cover. Just every gun has ignores cover. And each time an Adeptus Arbites, Inquisitor, Inquisitorial Agents, or Ordo Hereticus model from your army makes an attack that targets a Chaos unit containing 5 or more models, sustained hits 1 against them. Is that any good? I mean,
it's so bad, man.
It's so.
I feel like they should have swapped it. I feel like it should have been the opposite.
Like sustained hit 1s all the time and ignores cover versus chaos.
Yeah, because the problem is, we'll talk once again. We're obviously doing in this order, which is probably the right order, but it's worth noting this codex actually has some solid ways to ignore cover.
Yes.
Inquisitor Kodiaz ignores cover with his little eagle. And the Immolators have ignores cover once they shoot something. So this is a detachment that wants to take sisters. You're going to have Immolators. You're already going to have ignores cover. So it just feels shit to have that in it. So if you swap that and gave yourself sustained hits 1 against units of 5 or more, I think that would have been really cool.
It's kind of thematic as well against chaos, saying like you can't hide.
I feel like maybe they initially had that and they thought it was too strong. I think that this detachment's just bad off the out. Just reading that makes me just want to close that, move straight on. But obviously we're not going to. But you know what I mean? No. When I saw that, I just kept reading. I was like, all right, I'm done with this one.
Fair. Yeah. I'll quickly give you the points for the enhancements. So just jumping down here. So the Liber Hereticus, which is the first one, is 15, and then the Ignis is 10, No Escape is 20, and Witch Hunter is 25. All right, take it away. What's the first one, mate?
Yes, so Liber Heresius, Inquisitor or Ministorum Priest model only. After both players have deployed their army, select up to 3 agents of the Imperium units from your army and redeploy them. When doing so, you can set those units up in strat reserves if you wish, regardless of how many units already are in strat reserves.
Not bad. Redeploy.
Yeah, it's fine.
It is the same. It's the same wording as Lord Solar's. So it's before you know who's going first. So it's pre roll off.
Yeah. I don't know why it's the Liber Heresius. Like, it's got nothing to do with the Liber Heresius. They obviously just wanted to maintain the trademark on that name. But, it's mediocre because of just the way there's other ways to do that in this army. But nonetheless, it's okay. If you've got the points, you just do it, and it gives you a bit of flexibility.
All right, up next is No Escape, which is an aura for an Inquisitor only. While an enemy unit is within 6 of the bearer, each time is selected to fall back, must take a leadership test. If that test is failed, they must remain stationary. So if you fail the leadership test, you just literally can't fall back. I wish it was, if you passed, you had to take a desperate escape. So there was actually some negative side to passing, because now it's just like either it's incredible or why'd you bother bringing it? It's good that it has no delineation for vehicles, monsters, Titanic, so you can lock anything in if they fail.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that if you happen to tag a few things, then they all have to do it.
Correct.
So in certain contexts, it's very good. It's just the problem is, what unit are you putting that on in this kind of army? You probably still want it to be a chunky unit of Death Watch or a Terminator unit.
Exactly right, which get nothing from this detachment.
Yeah.
Because this is models. It doesn't say units, so you can't attach an Inquisitor to a Death Watch kill team and it gain the benefits and ignores cover. It specifically says models, like AOWdu's, Inquisitor, Agents, Hereticus, models. So you can't even. So that's a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
All right, Witch Hunter. Sorry, it's your turn.
Yeah, Witch Hunter, Inquisitor or Ministorum model only. Ministorum Priest model only. While the bearer is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets a Psyker unit, you can reroll the hit roll.
I mean, there's enough Psykers in the game. Like, there is Grey Knights and Thousand Suns all over the place in the meta at the moment. But are you gonna make that much of a meta pick? Are you gonna take an Inquisitor just to give this unit like Magnus hunting ability?
I don't think so.
Me either. Yeah, me either. It's too narrow still. Even with T-Suns being like one of the best armies in the game, it's still too narrow. All right, Ignis, Judicium, Inquisitor or Priest model only. The bearer's ranged weapons have devastating wounds, Melter 1, and precision abilities.
I mean, that's pretty good.
It is pretty good, but are those models any good is the question. I think an Inquisitor could be okay. They've got their like mind attack, which isn't the worst thing ever.
Yeah, but the thing is, their mind attack already has dev wounds.
It does. So it's
but getting Melter 1 means that it goes from damage 1 to 2. And we know that Melter ignores the neg 1 damage because it happens afterwards.
Yep.
So basically, it's pretty good if you get up close with an Inquisitor. If you put him in a unit of breaches to get reroll wounds, that actually becomes pretty good. I think this is like, sadly, one of the reasons you take this attachment is this enhancement. It's very good.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. But the rest of the enhancements kind of suck. So the redeploy is the worst version of redeploy. The no escape aura is very narrow, and I'm not sure what unit you're using that benefits from this detachment that is charging and people want to fall back from or care about being in combat with. Like, what threatening unit?
Well, it probably is Terminators, and like the thing is, I think one thing we have to note with these detachments is even if you're taking a fleet detachment, you're going to be taking things that aren't from the fleet.
Correct.
If you're taking this, you're going to be taking things that aren't sisters. You're going to be taking things from the whole book regardless of the detachment. So you absolutely would have like a Terminator unit in this detachment with that relic, probably.
That's a very good shout out. That's a very good thing to point out. All right, into enhancements. First up, stun grenades. It's at the start of any phase, excluding the command phase. So start of any phase is very cute. One of any of the units that was delineated in that attachment that have the grenades keyword, and it was not within engagement range. Select one enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, within 8 and visible to your unit. So same T's and C's as the grenade stratagem. That enemy unit must take a battle shock test, and until the end of the phase, each time roll that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So it's -1 to hit until the end of that phase, until the end of the phase. So you can do it before they charge you, but then the charge phase ends, and who cares? You can do it at the start of the fight phase, but you can't do it if you're in engagement range.
The thing is about this is I'll let the cat out of the bag now.
Yep.
That what makes this kind of unit, well, there's so many battle shock shenanigans that are good in Imperial Agents.
Yep.
And they're all, if you're going to use them and you're trying to battle shock people to make them OC0, you need to have sticky objectives. So you're going to need to have the sisters units giving you sticky objectives. And let's just say hypothetically that you have, you split a sisters unit with an immolator, you sticky one of your objectives, and then your opponent comes in with, like, so let's say a unit of JPIs or elite Chaos Legionary unit, whatever it might be, try to push you off. This, because it's happening at the start of any phase, you can do it like, at the start of, like, they come out to charge you. You can throw a stun grenade at the start of the shooting phase. Then you can throw another one at the start of the charge phase. You can keep doing it. And the beauty of that is if you get 2 of them, like, before they can actually make it into combat with you, you're getting just 2 opportunities to battle shock them there and make them OC0. And then,
or deny them stratagem use, or
Yeah, and even if they come and take you off the objective, you've stickied it and they're OC0, so you're going to hold the objective. So this is actually a very, very strong stratagem, especially when you can consider that you'll be able to use it twice. And you get 2 opportunities to battle shock them while on an objective you've stickied. So this is a good, as much as this sounds kind of niche, it's kind of like a Tyranid kind of. Tyranids have stuff like this.
Yeah. So the situation that I had was at the start of the charge phase, trying to stun grenade a unit you didn't want a heroic intervene into you.
Yeah, that's good as well.
And I thought that was the best play I had for it, was to be like, I'm going to charge this unit, but they've set up so well that I can't dodge them heroic intervening. I'm going to stun grenade the buggers, see if they battle shock, and then I can decide where I'm going to charge, because you'll have full knowledge.
I've always found that's very good. I've always found, though, that the best battle shock mechanics are the ones you can do in your opponent's turn.
Yeah, that's fair. That's good.
So this, because you can do this in any phase, doing it in your opponent's at the start of their shooting phase, at the start of their charge phase, that's really powerful. It's just a shame that you're not reducing their leadership.
Yeah, that is a shame. All right, what's the next strat?
Next strat is Dispense Justice. In your shooting or fight phase, 1 Adeptus Arbites Inquisitorial Agents or Auto Hereticus units that has not been selected to shoot or fight this phase. Turn at the end of the phase, weapons equipped by these models have lethal hits.
Yeah.
So shooting or fight phase, lethal hits for 1 CP.
Yeah, totally fine. It's the going rate for any such effect. It's a perfectly medium, you'll probably use it stratagem. Yeah?
Yep.
All right. Inviolate Jurisdiction. 1 CP in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit selected as targets. 1 of the units affected by this detachment from your army within range of an objective marker, and that was selected as a target at 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. To the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 5+ feel no pain. So 1 CP if you're on an objective, 5 up feel no pain. Not bad at all.
It's not bad until you realize you're only using it on Arbites Inquisitorial Agents.
Correct.
I mean, their Inquisitorial Agents are kind of annoyingly tough shooting if you have, they're not really, though. I don't know.
They're awkward. They're like a Drakara unit where you think you're going to smash them and all of a sudden you don't. Like, I shot a bunch of tanks at Scourges and I killed them at a terribly slow rate. this weekend. But yeah, 5 up, feel no pain. I mean, as a stratagem on its page, totally fine. Quite good actually. When you look to the units, you kind of shrug a little bit, right?
Yeah, I just feel like that what you can attach to them, like, because obviously I'm pretty sure you can't attach the rogue traders to any of these units.
Yes. I'll quickly scroll down and make sure, but you keep going, mate.
Just make sure of that, because the rogue traders are interesting in that that retinue actually increases the survivability of what it joins, but I don't think it can join any of these.
Well, I'm kind of on the opinion that the rogue trader entourage might be the best data sheet in the book.
Yeah, probably.
Second, join, breaches and voidsmen at arms. So nothing relevant here.
So it's just like, I don't know. It looks like a really good strat, but it's really, there's not much. I mean, it probably is like unit subductors with the 4-up invuln. Then you've got a 4-up invuln and a 5-up feel no pain. So it's pretty good on subductors, but that's about it.
All right, what's the next one? This is our first 2 CP strat. I'm expecting big
2
things.
CP. Your command phase execution order. Target 1 unit from the detachment. Select 1 enemy character unit on the battlefield until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in your unit targets that character, its weapons have the precision ability. So you get precision. You select one of your units and you get precision against one of their units with that character.
Yeah.
For 2 CP.
Yeah. I mean, when you're playing, like if you're playing against max accursed cultists, I don't know if this strat's going to save you anyway, but it would feel good to just like shotgun that 5-up invuln in the face.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god, it's like heroic challenge when your characters aren't good enough to kill them. So it's actually kind of admitting that this detachment sucks.
So wait a second. So how many melters and multi-melters can you take in a sister squad, a battle sister squad?
1 multi-melter, 1 melter.
Okay, well you could give those precision. I mean, because you could split those up with an immolator and have a 5 good, and then 3 melter gun to the face somebody's character.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. Yeah, it's kind of nice if you're going to shoot and then charge.
Yeah,
like it's just, I don't know, man.
I feel like it shouldn't be 2 CP.
Yeah, it could just be 1
CP. With the once again with the units that you're going to be wielding. Yeah, I don't get why it's 2. All right.
Agreed.
But there will be a time when it's going to be very important for you. I think, like you will just kind of have.
Yeah, if you draw Assassinate or something, or if you're playing like Purge and you just want to get more kills.
Yep.
So it's not horrible, but it's just it's not probably worth 2.
Yeah, I mean, like, if I have like Lord Solar in a unit of like 15 guardsmen, and because he's just like 8 wounds of toughness 4 with a 4-up, kind of punk him and I lose all my orders and my CP, and it sucks. All right, line of fire's up next, 1 CP. It's in your shooting phase. One of the units delineated by the detachment that has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit can target enemy units that are within engagement range of one or more friendly units with their ranged weapons, excluding blast weapons, provided the target is within 12. This almost feels like it could have been the 2 CP strat. This is awesome because it has no downside.
I think they forgot that the units you're picking between are units of Abides with shotguns, inquisitorial agents that have like very little shooting. They have like maybe a couple of multi-melter servitors, and then you've got the Sisters of Battle units.
Yep.
Like, who cares if you get shot by one of those? If you're playing on a clock, some people aren't even going to bother shooting those units. Like, I mean, I'm trolling a bit. I'm exaggerating, but when you read the strat, you think, if you're doing this with an actual shooting unit, this is premium. Like, if you can do this with, a unit of like Eradicators, it would be it would be worth 3 CP or whatever. But for these units, I just don't think it's good.
Fair. It's a cool strat though. It's a sick strat. Like, we haven't seen this kind of strat in a long time. And usually it would, in previous editions, it would come with, you're a -1 to hit, or when you roll a 1 to hit, you hit your friendly unit. This has none of those. Just 1 CP, no downsides, just shoot them.
The most interesting thing about it is probably that the characters get to shoot as well. So like, if you have an Inquisitor in these units, the Inquisitor gets to shoot its gun, and if it has that melter relic we talked about, enhancement, then it gets to shoot into a unit in combat. Like that's pretty good.
Cool. That is pretty cool. I was just thinking of it. Like, I thought the best thing you could shoot would be an immolator. Like an immolator just
and
shooting
actually,
into
that
another
means it can
combat.
just shoot into its own combat as well. Because you could just shoot, like, you could just target a unit that's in combat and it gets to shoot into its own combat. That's pretty good, I guess. Like, if you consider the fact that the characters in the army are pretty good, basically giving the whole unit pistol ability is pretty useful. And just to be able to shoot one of your other units out of combat is good as well. So, yeah, it's actually pretty good. It's just a shame that you're not actually getting proper
you're not wielding
units.
Yeah, you're not even wielding like like medium marine unit strength or even guard unit strength. Like if you need a Cassican or Scions having this ability would be incredible. But yeah.
So we already talked about at the start that you want that Ignis Judicium. You want him in a breacher unit because they give reroll wounds, and breaches aren't any of these. They're not on this list.
They're not affected. Yeah. All right. What's the last one?
Exact punishment, 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an agent of the Imperium unit from your army is destroyed as the result of the enemy unit's attacks. Target one of the units from this attachment from your army that was within 6 of the destroyed unit, although you cannot target the unit that was destroyed. After the attacking unit has shot, your unit can shoot as if it were your shooting phase, but when resolving those attacks, it can only target the enemy unit, that enemy unit.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Sisters one.
Yep. It is quite similar to that's the Bringers of Flame one where you shoot a transport, the unit gets out, shoots you back. Once again, we're talking about a series of units delineated by the detachment that do not have uber powerful shooting. I mean, it's going to be perfectly serviceable against things without armor saves, but anybody with a 3-up or decent toughness is not going to care.
Man, I feel like they wrote this and they were thinking about like they had like a table
Dominions, retributors.
They had the enemy army was like MSU tactical squads and stuff, like or just lots of catachans, and they're like, oh, look at them blow up those catachans. Like this is just not practical in a real game.
Yeah. The best thing in my opinion, the best thing you are shooting is a handful of melter shots in return. That's the best you're gonna be doing. With maybe a spicy Inquisitor's mind bullets. But yeah, it's a bunch of this is the worst attachment in the book, in my opinion. So
maybe you shoot you can target an immolator, so the immolator could shoot its melter, like its twin length melter.
Yeah, and it's got a heavy bolter as well, and
that's maybe good. I don't know, man.
Me either. None of it gets me very excited. But some of the strats are actually good. They're just not applied to quality units, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got the Demon Hunters detachment. So this is predicated on Grey Knights. And then destroying the demonic is each time an Inquisitor, Inquisitorial Agents, or Auto Malleus model from your army makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. And if the target of the attack is a demon, reroll a wound roll of 1 as well. Should demons get a codex and that codex be really good, this might become a lot better. As it is right now, pretty mid. Rerolling to, it's shooting and combat though. You're just rerolling to wounds all the time. So it's like baby perma oath.
I kind of like that it's giving you something that you don't say no to, like just reroll ones to hit.
It's totally fine.
Terminators is just kind of good because they don't get that. So
yeah, well, just remember Inquisitor, Inquisitorial Agents, or Auto Malleus units, guys, because I don't want to have to read them out again at every stratagem. So, what's the first of the enhancements, my man?
A formidable resolve, Inquisitor model only. Improve the bearer's leadership and wounds characteristics by 1. Once per battle at the start of any phase, you can select one friendly battle shocked unit within 12 of the bearer. That unit is no longer battle shocked.
Boo! Don't care. That seems awful.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Demon Slayer, Inquisitor model only. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons, and those weapons have anti-demon 3+ ability. I mean, the Avatar of Cain weeps, but that's about it. Add 1. It's just add 1 to attacks in all reality, because how often do you play demons?
Oh man, it's just so bad.
It's so bad, dude. All right, next up.
Grimoire of True Names. Inquisitor model only. While an enemy unit is within 9 of the bearer, worsen the leadership characteristic of models in that unit by 1. In addition, while an enemy demon unit is within 9 of the bearer, each time a model in that demon unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll and subtract 1 from the wound roll.
Uber nerf to demons. Like that sucks really hard for demons because they have very few access to rerolls to hit or to wound. So yeah, but once again, the other part of it is very mid. It's just it's a -1 leadership aura.
It is nice when you stack it in with like navigators, which we can talk about later.
Oh yeah, yes, that's true.
It is like, yeah, if you're running navigators and you're doing stuff with them, but you probably would be running them in a fleet detachment. But it is interesting that it gives you some leadership shenanigans in a codex that likes doing battle shock tests.
Yep.
So you probably do take this anyway in your list.
I think you'll likely take this anyway, and possibly this last one. So the Gift of the Prescient, Inquisitor only. Once per battle, if the bearer is on the battlefield, you can use the Rapid Ingress stratagem for 0 CP. When doing so, you must target a Grey Knight's Terminator squad unit from your army, and when the stratagem is used, they can be set up anywhere in the battlefield more than 3 away from enemy units. So I do 100% believe you are taking this one. This one is...
this is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Because how do you screen that? You can't screen that.
You just can't screen it. And the fact that it's free, so spice. So spice. I actually really like it. So this is Demon Hunters. So Demon Slayer is 10 points. Formidable Resolve is 5 points. Gift of the Prescient, the one we just mentioned, is 20 points. And Grimoire of True Names is 15. So in all reality, set aside 35 points for your enhancements in this detachment because you are likely you're 100% taking the Gift of the Prescient for the free, what we just mentioned, and the Grimoire of True Names for 15 is not the worst.
Maybe if you're taking the other units, maybe.
Yeah, if you're taking the right combo of units. But yeah, like that is auto take, right? That last one?
Oh yeah, I think that's probably the reason you take this detachment, to be honest.
Yeah. Just 10 GK termies like that are going to be OC a bajillion, just stealing whatever they want.
Well, you can't take units you can only take units of 5.
Apologies. Still going to be OC a bajillion.
Yeah, but that's one of the limitations of the termies in this in Imperial Agents. But still, if you've got them with a character, they're still going to come on and they're gonna flip an objective off you, and you're going to be annoyed. And then they're Terminators and they're hard to kill. So
yep, agreed. All right, first of the strats, mate. What is it?
Ritual of Warding for 1 CP, start of any command phase. So it's Inquisitor, Inquisitorial Agents, or Auto Malleus, and we'll just say from now on that it's one of the units from the detachment that is within range of an objective mark you control. Well, without reading the whole thing, it gives you sticky.
Yep.
You sticky it. But in addition, while that objective marker is warded, enemy demon units cannot be set up within 6 of it.
Cool little caveat. I mean, 1 CP for sticky objectives is just a perfectly acceptable stratagem. And then a little bit of extra spice. Why not?
Yeah.
Rites of Exorcism, also 1 CP. In fact, all of these strats are 1 CP. It's in your shooting phase or the fight phase, one of the units from the detachment. Select one enemy demon unit within 12 and visible to your unit. That unit must take a battle shock test. If the test is failed, until the end of the phase, each time a friendly agent of the Imperium unit makes an attack that targets the demon unit, that attack has the devastating wounds ability. Once again, you're going to kill that Avatar Arcane real good.
Oh my God, man.
Your opponent with the unkillable Great Unclean one is now very killable. But dear me, oh my, I wish it did something against non-demon armies. What a waste of a possibility.
They should have just said it just creates a battle shock test, and then if you're a demon, you're like -1 or -2 leadership.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nah. This strat can piss off. It annoyed me the first time I read it. It annoys me now. What's next?
Steel Heart. When your movement phase just after a Grey Knight's Terminator squad from your army falls back, target your Grey Knight Terminators. They are eligible to shoot and declare a charge in that turn.
Sick.
So I guess that's good. Like if you're running several units of Terminators, which you probably are in this list, then they can fall back and charge.
So when I've you know this, Jeremy, I review every codex. That's the best version of the stratagem. It is niche in the fact that you have to name the squad, but Votan essentially have the best version of the fallback and do whatever strat for 1 CP. Any unit in their army can just fall back and do whatever. And that's the best version of that stratagem in the game. Most people have a 1 CP fallback or and shoot or charge. And some people have extra caveats to do both. This one, just giving Great Knight Terminators both, pretty dang good as the going rate in comparison to other codexes.
Especially because this is what this army would be. This army would probably be like probably 4 to 5 units of Terminators.
Yeah. I fully think it's min 3. I think it's min 3 by 5. Like you start with that, build out the rest, and then add more Terminators.
Yeah.
True Civil Armor is Armor Contempt.
Yep, we know that one.
Yeah, moving on.
Just worth noting, though, it's only for Terminators. So
yeah, correct.
Yeah. Then hexagrammic wards.
Yep.
Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, one Automelius unit from your army that was selected as the target. Until the end of the phase, all psychic... Wait a second. Yeah, so you're...
You give them hazardous against you.
You give them hazardous against you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, it's pretty funny for your Terminator unit. You know, your 10 Scarab Core Terminators trying to pop a unit, and you just like make it 3 of them die. But once again, extremely niche. Does nothing if you're playing. If you're just playing against Space Marines, you're just playing against Orcs, you're just playing against Tau, you're just playing against Votan. This strat doesn't exist.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's until the end of the phase, all psychic weapons.
Yeah.
Equipped by models in the attacking unit have hazardous.
Yep.
Oh my god, it's another waste of a stratagem.
It's a waste of a strat. It's like 2 strats in here that almost don't exist, like 80% of the time, and that's kind of frustrating to me.
So it only works against psychic. Like it's quite annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. Cyborg ammunition is in your shooting phase. This is the last one. One Granite Terminator squad from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase. And at the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have lethal hits and psychic. So lethal hits and psychic. I don't know where you're getting anything else that is benefiting psychic.
No.
This is a character I don't know something about that's going to give you some reason to that psychic matters. So essentially, this is 1 CP lethal hits. Yeah.
And it's just annoying because like it sounds interesting. You read that psychic rule and you're like, oh, cool. And then
I went looking.
I went looking as well, and I'm like, what was that? Like, not only is it a horrible strat, well, it's not horrible. It's 1 CP lethal, but you've made me waste my time, and it's only a debuff now, because now anything that's has defense against psychic is relevant.
What a tale of 2 detachments, though. These 2 middle detachments in this book, you have one that actually has pretty decent rules that are applied to, in my opinion, very mediocre units, and then you have this detachment which has Seamus is going to have to bleep this, absolute dog shit rules on pretty decent units.
The thing is, though, like all you're doing in this detachment is you're using CP on, Ingress. You're using CP on Steel Heart, fallback and charge. You're using it on Armor of Contempt all the time. Yep. That's all you're using your CP on. Like, your heroic intervening for 1 CP.
Like, I mean, if you break it down, it's got Armor of Contempt, sticky objectives, fall back and do what you want. Those are 3 bread and butter stratagems, and then lethal hits when you need to. But so that's not the worst in the world. There's just like nothing exciting apart from Gift of the Prescient, the 3-inch 3-inch rapid ingress, 3-inch deep strike rapid ingress on enhancement. I think is really sick and very unique and interesting and exciting. And apart from that, it's just like a tale of mediocrity.
Agreed.
Okay, but once again, though, the units are quite good. Like we're talking about like quality Terminator units that you're using this stuff on, and could be very spicy, very cool Inquisitors and other bits and pieces. This is, though, in our opinion, the best one. This is the Imperial Fleet. And the detachment rule is spectacular. It is at all costs. At the start of your command phase, you can select one of the following to apply. Eliminate at all costs. Select one enemy unit on the battlefield until the start of your next command phase. Each time an agent of the Imperium model from your army makes an attack that targets an enemy unit, add 1 to the hit roll. Just add 1 to hit against selected enemy units. So it's pretty much Oath. Rather than being rerolls, it's +1.
It's probably not quite as good as Oath, because
it's not quite as good as Oath.
Typically is better, but it's like a mini Oath. It's good
because you have another option, which is acquire at all costs. Select one objective marker on the battlefield until the start of your next command phase. While an agent of the Imperium unit from your army is within range of that objective, improve the leadership and objective control by 1, and they get a 5-up invulnerable save. And that, for me, is the good part. That's the best bit. That is freaking sick. Like, I'm increasing my ability to not be battle shocked. I'm increasing my ability to take and hold objectives, and I'm increasing my durability while I'm doing it. I think it is chef's freaking kiss.
Yeah, like just the fact that it's basically like at worst, or it's kind of like having that order for the guard. What's the order that you get the extra OC?
It's OC and leadership goes up by 1.
Yeah,
oh man,
so
if that gave me a 5 up as well in guardsman, oh man.
Yeah, but that order is so good because you always have to assume that whenever you attack objectives that they're all +1 OC.
Correct.
So it's kind of the same. Like everything can go up an OC to defend objectives. So that's obviously very good. They can also preemptively increase. Like they could pick your objective and say, I'm +1 OC on your objective,
and go flip it very easily.
And then go flip it, and then they can, and then they've got a 5-up invuln to help defend themselves when you attack them, or they just go, no, none of that's relevant this turn. I'm just going to pick +1 a hit.
Yep,
exactly. It's just so it's always going to be very good. There's no time that this is going to be like, oh, none of that's good.
Yeah, there are so many cards that you can pull off the top of your deck that this helps you do. Your opponents, you pick Overwhelming Force and you can't make it to the objective, pick the unit on the objective. They're easy to kill. Storm Hostile, you secure No Man's Land, all these things, just so much easier to do. What is interesting, I mean, and I don't believe there is a 0 OC model in this army, but if you did have a 0 OC model in your army and you gave it OC1, all of a sudden they could do actions again, which would be cute.
It also just means that if you fail a battle shock test, you're still OC1.
Yep.
So that's you true. It means that it's like a real very powerful defensive holding objectives ability. I think that's its best. I actually think that's what it's best for. In that you just it's so much harder for your opponent to go, what's your OC on that objective? Because then they have to, everything on the objective gets the extra OC, not just one unit.
Yep.
So if you have a couple of units on that objective, it just becomes such a different, much harder task for them to kill it. And then because they know you're just going to go up an OC. So then they go, oh, okay, now I have to. It's just annoying. But it also has other utility, and you have the +1 to hit if you want as well. So it's just like so good.
All right. What's the first enhancement?
Digital weapons, agents of the Imperial model only. Each time the bearer is selected to fight, roll 3d6. For each 4-up, one enemy unit in engagement range suffers 1 mortal. Mortal wounds inflicted by this enhancement are allocated as if they had precision.
That's kind of cute, but I still don't think it's great.
Yeah.
Each time the bearer is selected to fight, which is going to be once, if they're lucky, you might do 2 mortal wounds if you get the better side of the averages.
Yeah, it's like maybe you put on like a Watchmaster and maybe he can like more reliably snipe out a character.
Is a Watchmaster an agent of the Imperium?
Yeah, I think that's everyone has agents of the Imperium. I'm pretty sure.
Inquisitor Draxus does not have agents of the Imperium.
Does she really not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Navigator does not have agents of the Imperium. Oh, sorry, faction keywords, agents of the Imperium. Faction keywords. Never mind. My bad.
Because
my bad.
Yeah, like this is already why this detachment's better than the others, because it just applies to everything.
Yeah, I was looking at the actual keywords, not the faction keywords. So yeah.
It's just annoying.
It's everybody.
And it's just the other ones was already so restrictive. This one, the rules are better and it applies to everything. So
it's universal. Yeah, it's the only universal one. Oh, look, that means it's probably the best one. Oh, look, it's got the best attachment rule. It's also like you would expect that if I was playing with a shoebox selection of mediocre units like I do in the Sisters attachment, my rules would be absolutely baller. And it's just not the case, unfortunately.
No.
The next enhancement is Clandestine Operation. Agents in the Imperium model only. At the start of the declare battle formation step, you can select up to 3 agents of the Imperium infantry units from your army, excluding Grey Knight Terminators. They gain Infiltrators ability. This is an auto take.
It is very good. The problem with this, though...
Oh, you're telling me this isn't an auto take?
No, it is. But if I'm not mistaken, because I have looked this up, at the start of the declare battle formation step, that is before units have been joined by characters, because that happens in the battle formation step.
Yeah.
So you can't apply this to like a Death Watch unit with a character. That will take 2 of your selections.
Yeah. Okay. I did not know that nuance, and that does change things.
Yeah, when I first started using this, I just thought, you go, 3 Death Watch units with Watchmasters, that actually doesn't work because you have to do it at the start of the step. So you give one of the abilities works on the Watchmaster, one works on the unit. So it's actually not as good as it seems.
Yeah. Very fair. And the fact that you can't use it on Terminators, of course, that would be pretty busto. Just like 15 Terminators starting on all the objectives, or 15 Terminators starting on one objective in the middle of the table.
Yeah, people are, I'm sure everyone's misplaying this at the moment. Or I'm just an idiot and I've misinterpreted, but I think I haven't, because it says at the start of that step.
Yeah. No, I'd back that. If that's how that reads, then yeah.
Yeah, and then it's still, you obviously still take it. It's just
still take it.
You probably put it on one Death Watch brick. You go, okay, well, I've got my one Death Watch brick with the character and the unit, and then you have one more unit that infiltrates. So it might be another Death Watch unit without a character, or it might be some sort of
Subductors. Yeah.
Subductor unit. Yeah.
All right, what's the next enhancement?
Fleet Master, Voidfarer's model only. Once per battle round, you can target the bearer's unit with a Violent Acquisition, Masters of the Void, or Close Quarters Barrage Strat for 0 CP.
And we'll unpack those when we get to them, and we'll come back and reference this after we've done that, and then tell you how good this is. Because right now we don't have the context.
Yeah, and
you guys don't have the context.
For those that
it's fine.
It ends up being fine. Yep.
Yeah, it does. I think it's pretty good.
Yep.
That's because I really highly rate the entourages, the Rogue Trader entourages. I think they're fantastic. Mm-hmm. All right, Combat Landers is the last one. Voidfarer's model only. At the start of the declare battle formation step, you can select up to 3 Voidfarer's units from your army. They gain Deep Strike. Once again, does this mean this is before you attach them to units?
It does.
It makes it very awkward. Very awkward.
So the place where you probably put this is on a breacher unit with a character.
Yep.
And then they will come down and blast something, and you can probably put it on a single navigator, so the navigator can deep strike and do some battle shock shenanigans or do some sort of mission. So I would probably put it on a breacher unit and a character.
Yep.
And a single probably navigator.
I actually really like the idea of a navigator in reserve, because there is some very good strat reserve shenanigans you can do with that 12-inch no deep strike aura. And just deep strike into your opponent's backfield, and then all of a sudden you blocked out the whole table and they can't arrive on turn 3 and they're dead. I think that could be really cute. All right, but in totality, there's 2. I think Clandestine Operation, Combat Landers are both very good, even though I now find out they're much more awkward than I thought. And Fleet Master is also quite good as well. So there's 3 quite decent stratagems here. Enhancements. What's the first strat?
Violent Acquisition. I think this is probably the best strat, or one of the best strats in the whole book.
Same.
So it's your shooting or fight phase. One agent, so it's 2 CP, by the way. 1 agent to the Imperium unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your armor makes an attack that targets an enemy within range of an objective marker, that attack has sustained, hits 1, lands, and ignores cover.
So good. So of course you only get the lance if you're fighting them, and you only get the ignores cover if you're shooting them. But either way you cut it, brilliant stratagem.
Yeah, so this works, and it's worth noting that if you're doing this on Death Watch vets, it's only going to cost you 1 because of the Watchmaster in the unit. This basically makes Death Watch vets hit like Blood Angels.
It does.
So it's, even though some people might look at that and go, "Oh, it's mediocre," it actually really isn't. It's. I would say this is what makes this detachment good.
Well, you get frag cannons in. You get 3 frag cannons with 6 shots each in rapid fire range.
You just get 2, I believe. I might be wrong.
It's 2. Just 2. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so it's 12 shots though, right?
Yeah. Well, D3 blast.
D3 blast. My bad. But yeah, anyway, sustained hit 1s and ignores cover on that many shots. A pseudo going to AP2 because of ignores cover. That's pretty good. That is pretty dang good shooting wise, also.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Masters of the Void, 1 CP. It's in your movement phase. 1 Voidfarer's character from your army. And until the end of the phase, each agent in the Imperium unit from your army that is arriving from strategic reserve this turn, it can be set up within your opponent's deployment zone. All other restrictions still apply. So
this, it just means that if you have like a little unit of breaches or voidsmen at arms or something
on turn 2, you go in the
with
backfield.
a character in it. It means you can just go into their deployment zone and do an action on turn 2, or go in and shoot them on turn 2.
Exactly right. And so it's these first 3: Violent Acquisition, Master of the Void, and it's next one, Close Quarters Barrage, that you get for free with that strat. And like, I mean, it's essentially, if you look at it, so Violent Acquisition is listed 1, right? It is. I'm not crazy, yeah. So that's a. Oh, sorry, I never told you guys how many points these things are. My absolute bad. Where are we? So Clandestine Operation, which is the Infiltrator one, is only 15 points. Combat Landers, which is the Deep Strike one, is only 10 points. Digital Weapons, which you will never take, is 10 points. And Fleet Master is 20 points. So, but Fleet Master is the free CP one. And if you look at it like 20 points, and even if you just use that strat once, that is 20 points for 2 CP of value. And I think that's actually pretty good.
Yep, agreed.
All right, what's the last one? What's Close Quarters Barrage? Sorry, the last of the 3 you get for free.
Yep, so you're shooting phase 1 Voidfarer's unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in the army makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within 12, improve the strength and armor penetration of that attack by 1. So it's only going to work on breaches, voidsmen at arms, or the retinue.
Yep.
The what's it called? The rogue trader retinue, and also works on the navigators.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, it's going to be probably a breachy unit,
dude,
that's going to be shooting something, and they're making their because they have an ability to ignore cover, just base, like just the once per game ignore cover. So if you make their shotguns re-rolling wounds on an objective, if you give that AP 1, it actually makes them a lot better.
It actually makes them shred. And even if they've used that, you can use, if you're in the unit with the detachment, so with the enhancement, you can do Violent Acquisition for free to get sustained 1 and ignores cover, and then get plus strength and AP for 1 CP. And like those shotties actually pop off.
Yeah, and you can also, and this is where we get into the meat and potatoes, where we talk about the rogue trader retinue. If you attach a rogue trader retinue to that unit, they've got some decent shooting in that little unit. And then they'll all get sustained hits in your cover. They'll get reroll wounds. It actually pops off a bit.
Dude, and they can have +1 to hit as well from the detachment ability.
Yeah. They can come in and do a lot better than kind of what you would think a little small unit like that will. And this is just the opposite of everything else we've read about up until this point with all the other detachments.
Correct.
This is actual...
It feels like the first 3 detachments were written by somebody who had, no offense, very little idea of what they were trying to achieve. And this detachment was written with a very clear goal.
Can I make a prediction?
Yep.
I think that when they wrote this detachment, everything that says Agents of the Imperium actually said Voidfarers.
Voidfarers, yes.
And then they realized, wait a second, this sucks because there's like 3 Voidfarers units in the book.
Yeah.
So they changed it, and they didn't realize that now it's broken. They changed it from being garbage by just being Voidfarers to being all the models.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that there's probably like a place where they need to do something about the disparity between this detachment and all the others, because this is actually a really cool, fun. Like, I'm excited to play this. I reckon they should just change the other ones to all be to have more Agents of the Imperium.
Same. Just make them all everything. That's the whole point of the book, right?
Rather than nerf this, they probably should just buff the other ones. Yeah.
But anyway, let's get the rest of the strats done. What's the next one?
The next one is Emperor's Will. 1 CP in your movement phase, 1 Agents of the Imperium unit in your army. Until the end of the phase, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced or fell back.
Not the worst.
Yep, it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Displace the field is up next for 1 CP. It's in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit is selected as targets. 1 Agent of the Imperium character unit from your army, excluding assassins, that was selected as the target. And to the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 4+ invulnerable save. And after the attacking unit has resolved its attacks, unless your unit is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, it can make a normal move of up to 6. When doing so, they can move as if they had the fly keyword. What a freaking banger of a strategy.
Yeah, this is probably that, like, I said that Violent Acquisition Violent Acquisition is probably the second best strat in the book. This is the best.
Yeah, this is the best. You shoot me 1 CP, I make myself have a 50-50, reduction in death, and then I get to freaking move 2. Oh my!
But you know
God.
what the worst part is, man? That
What?
normal move lets you embark in a transport.
It does.
So the Deathwatch vets, and this is why it's kind of lame that Deathwatch are like better in this army than they are in their own detachment.
Yeah,
because you shoot a Deathwatch unit, and they're like, "Oh yeah, now I get a 4-up invuln. Like everyone gets a Storm Shield, and then I get to either move towards you to kill you next turn, or I get to embark in my Rhino." So you get one activation into them that they get a 4-up invuln. Like it's wild. Like this on Deathwatch is wild.
Yeah. Oh man, pulling out your unit, like acting like you messed up, or I made a charge and I rolled too high, so I had to go on the other side of a wall to make base contact. Oh no, your opponent pulls out all their shooting things. They shoot one activation in, and you bunk it back behind the other wall, and then next turn they're just in the wind. This strat is sick. When I read it, my eyes did pop a little bit because
it's also sick on everything. It's good on.
It's good on everything. Yeah.
It's good on Imperial agents. It's good on like breaches. It's good on it's good on everything.
I love it. I love it so much. And not on assassins, and it has to be a character unit are the only stipulations there. You know
what's also funny? Like it seems a bit counterintuitive. It's very good on Grey Knights Terminators because they're slow.
Yeah, correct.
I know that it's a normal move of up to does it say up to 6? They're only going to move 5, but nonetheless, they gain the fly word, and so basically, if those Terminators are in a spot where your opponent kind of is like, "Oh, I'll just plink some shots at them," you pop this,
they'll surge me,
shoot you, you move 5 towards them, then you resurrect a Terminator, and you just ruin their day.
Well, exactly. If you just look at it like if your unit already has a 4-up invuln, this is just a blood surge. Like, it's really good, really good. All right, Selfless Bodyguard, last one CP. Your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit selected as targets. So your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase. 1 Agents of the Imperium attached unit that was selected as a target of those attacking units' attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack with the precision ability is allocated to a character model in your unit. If there are 1 or more bodyguard models in your unit, roll a d6. On a 2+, that attack is allocated to the bodyguard model of your choice instead. So 1 CP, precision protection. Seems like very much at home it's very much at home in the GSC book. But
the thing why I like it in this, the best thing about this is that you're never going to use it, but
you're going to tell your opponent about it.
It means your opponent, because this army, like I've written several lists, this army probably ends up with about 6 to 7 characters in it.
Yeah.
And it becomes an actual choice to pick Assassinate into this army because your opponent goes, you've got lots of characters, some of them are kind of easy to kill. And then you just say, look, mate, before you pick Assassinate, just want to let you know, I've got a stratagem called Selfless Bodyguard. You can't precision me because I've got a 2-up to ignore precision. That's enough to make the Assassinate pick bad.
It is. And especially when your characters are T3 4 wounds on average. Or worse. Yeah, and a Navigator is T3 3 wounds with a 5-up armor save, or 4-up invulnerable save.
They can't come in and precision you out. So it just means that like if you play a bit conservative with your characters, they're just that extra bit hard to kill. Like even if they come to grips with you in turns 4 and 5 to like finish off those last few characters, the fact you can keep them alive with this means that I just feel as though it's good because it will just make you feel more free to pick the characters without playing into Assassinate.
Agreed. All right. That is the end of the detachments, and I think it's pretty clear by our reading that we think Imperialized Fleet is good. I mean, Imperialized Fleet is actually incredible when you unpack everything you get. Like if you were to take, Death Guard, T-Suns, any other Imperial faction, any Xenos faction, and give them these rules, terrifying.
Well, that's the issue, and I think what I like about it is it's like you look at all those different strats and rules. They're fun. They're like appealing because they all sound really fun to play. But then when you look at the limited data sheets you have access to, it's probably not that strong. But it's empowering mediocre data sheets to be pretty solid.
And that's what this whole faction should be. Here is this weird sandbox that you have to play in, but you're going to enjoy the hell out of it. And that's what it should be. That's what it should feel like.
Exactly.
I mean, this detachment, you get infiltrate on demand. Like you just at the start of the, like you see who your opponent is, and you just choose to infiltrate a bunch of stuff, or you choose to deep strike a bunch of stuff, or you choose to use a bunch of strats for free. They're all pretty interesting. You have one of the best stratagems in the game in Displace a Field. That is like a top 5 stratagem in the game, but it's used on mediocre units compared to the contemporaries. I mean, Deathwatch Kill Team is pretty good, but you compare it to like the powerhouse, Space Marine units, and it's okay, I guess. It's not incredible. It's not like the best of its best. None of these things are the best version of them in the game. Like you can't compare Breaches to Kassakin or Scions and think that they're better. But in this, when they can have sustained extra AP, ignores cover, a +1 to hit, all of a sudden, oh my god, they seem pretty amazing for the points. Well, we'll see what the points are, to be honest. The points in the back of the book aren't too bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into the data sheets. And there are too many to bother unpacking ad nauseum, unfortunately. So I'm going to put it to Jez, and we're going to unpack the ones that he thinks you guys need to know about. Because we don't need to tell you what Grey Knight's Terminators do. You should all pretty much know by now. And then, I'm not going to take 5 minutes out of your day to explain Watch Captain Artemis. So
yeah, so we can talk through them just holistically rather than go through every little pip of stats.
Well, we can stop at the ones where you think we can do full on the ones that you think are important, that you think are absolute bangers.
Okay, well, okay. So we'll start with the Inquisitor. The Inquisitor is fine because of the cost. Like he's about, I think it's 55 points. It's a decent leader because it activates access to those stratagems that we talked about. Like the Displace a Field stratagem requires a leader. So in a unit, you want to put a leader, and an Inquisitor is just like an obvious choice of a possible leader to put in. The problem is it doesn't really do very much. Its shooting is fine. It's got a 2d6 flamer with dev wounds, so that's pretty good if you put it in a breacher unit when it gets reroll wounds.
It is an 18-inch flamer, which is the only thing that I thought was kind of cute about it.
Yeah, it's strength 3 AP 2. So it's like the AP 2 is kind of interesting. It just really, really needs the reroll wounds. So if it's in breaches, it's fine. So if you're going to take an Inquisitor, you probably want him in breaches. Otherwise, there's better characters.
All right. How do you feel about Coates McGoats? Cody himself.
Cody I hate the new model.
Awful model. Horrific. Worst I've seen in quite a while.
He looks like he doesn't have knees. Like he looks like he just.
Yeah. He looks like he's wearing a nappy to me. I hate the model so much. I hate it so much.
He's like, the only thing that's good about him is he's the obvious choice to put as a character in if you're taking a Terminator unit. Because he gets to join them. Not all the Inquisitors can join the Terminators. And what he does quite well is he hits relatively hard. And in a Terminator unit, you want to have a character because pushing to 6 models is very important. Because what it means is you can never be battle shocked naturally by failing a test. Because if you ever get reduced to a 2-model unit, just Kodiaz and the Apothecary will res you, and then you'll go to 3. So you want to have the break point of 6 models. So if you are taking a Terminator unit, which I think you would in most lists, just because they are pretty tough, you probably just throw him in. You don't love throwing him in because he's like 75 points and he doesn't do that much. He only has 3 attacks, but you probably just do it because he's the best of the choices to put in that unit.
I think Inquisitor Draxus is exactly the same as she was, and she's still very good. Still got the 18-inch loan up on a 2+. Can still go into all the transports and things, and your unit gets +1 to hit if a target unit doesn't have Imperium or Chaos. She's totally fine. I think she's actually very good. She's still going to make pretty much every Custodes list.
Her shooting's like super good. Obviously, she loves shooting twice in the Custodes units. And
did her shooting lose indirect? I believe it did.
Her shooting's changed a little bit.
Yep.
It lost indirect and maybe something else.
Yeah, might have lost some AP.
she's good in breaches because the breach getting
Rerolls.
reroll wounds on those weapons is pretty nice.
Yep. Greyfax, pretty cute, like strength 8, neg 2, 3 damage shooting attack with anti-character 4+ dev wounds and precision. Condemned Stake is another shooting attack with anti-psycho 3+ dev wounds, precision, and rapid fire, but that's who cares? That's a bolt gun shot. She got a Mastercraft Power Sword, which is exactly what you'd expect. Whilst his model's leading unit, range weapons equipped by models unit have the anti-psycho 4+. Who cares? That's crap. And whilst his leading unit, each time model that unit makes an attack that targets a unit that's below half strength, add 1 to the hit roll. She's terrible. Her shooting is good, and the rest of it is just worthless.
She's like one of those, I don't know. The model's really cool.
Yeah.
I like her.
I love her hat, but what a narrow band of special rules. Like, that pisses me off.
Yeah, tell us about, she's like, ironically, the base Inquisitor is probably just better because on a 3-up, if you use a strat on your unit, on a 3-up, you gain a CP.
Yeah.
So that's probably just a better rule than all these niche rules she has.
Agreed.
So, I don't know. She's mediocre.
Tell us about the Navigator, because I love the Navigator. The Navigator is what, 75 points in the back of this book?
I think he's in the field manual. I think he's 60 in this detachment, but if you take him as an ally, I think he's 75, something like that.
Good.
But this guy, he's, and I know, like, we're obviously talking about most of the analysis we've been doing has been through the lens of this is an army. But I think with this guy, you kind of have to talk about him also as an ally, and people are probably keen to hear that. Obviously, having a 12-inch deep strike denial is really useful in lots of metas, and to be able to play around the 3-inch deep strike possibilities that some armies have.
This guy is, like, in my opinion, auto take for Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights do not have the models to block out any portion of their backfield. Just taking like 1 Inquisitor gives them so much home field security, like of actually being able to make sure you hold your home objectives. And even if you can't, like, they deep strike and they kill the Navigator, they still are not able to get on at that turn, which is absolutely awesome. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is though, right? Even with the 12-inch bubble, a unit of like 5 Voidsmen at Arms, or small, like, gives a bigger bubble of denial.
Yeah.
So I think with him, you probably take him with that, or you take him specifically as well to stop the 3-inch deep strike shenanigans.
Yeah, correct.
But another thing to note though is his other rule is that at the start of your shooting phase, you select an enemy unit within 12 and visible to him. That unit takes a battle shock test, subtracting 2 if they are infantry. And if they fail the battle shock test, in addition, they suffer 3 mortal wounds.
It's sick.
That at the -2 leadership immediately gives Imperium armies the ability to combine with their own leadership reduction abilities to not only dish out 3 mortal wounds, which isn't bad, but reliably cause battle shock tests.
Yep.
And that is quite interesting, because sometimes, like, AOC becomes a massive problem for certain armies. Like, they just can't kill into AOC, or they can't kill into neg 1 damage. And if you just go, well, if I can just battle shock you reliably because you're neg 3, like if your own army has an ability to reduce leadership, and you have 2 navigators, if you ally in 2 navigators, like, suddenly you have a tech piece that either can just be a backfield screening unit, does well at doing that, or if you need to actually have him up close, you can just put him in strat reserves. He comes on and uses his ability, or he can, I don't know, like, he can be in a transport or something. I don't know. I feel like he's pretty interesting.
I think it's incredible. I think Navigator is absolutely awesome. No reason for just a freaking Navigator to have a 4-pin vulnerable save, by the way, and it does. So it's cute. Minister and Priest is okay, I guess. I'm not sure what you're...
Yeah, he gives sustained hits. So, like, in some units, like Subductors, he's optional, but he's not very good.
You can, once per game, have 6 attacks with its strength 5, which will go to strength 8. 6 strength 8 attacks at -1, 2 damage. That only hit on a 4. So, yep. I think the Priest is pretty bad. I wish it gave +1 to wound or rerolls to hit, or... Yeah, none of this gets me excited.
He can join like a lot. He does join a fair few things.
He does. He better be cheap, real cheap.
Yeah, he's like 35 or 40%. I don't know. I think he's okay. Some lists you throw him in. I think the reason not to throw him in is this: you're already running too many characters.
Correct.
And he just unnecessary for the most part.
Another toughness 3 wound character, in for a dime, in for a dozen. Take 30. Who cares? All right, inquisitorial agents, mate. What's here to talk about?
So they're a unit of haphazard T3 infantry. If they're joined by something, they get -1 to wound, which
has to be an inquisitor.
It has to be an inquisitor, and that's good. We know that's -1 to wound is good because it's annoying when you're shooting like strength 5 at them and you're winning on 4s. In the detachment, in the fleet detachment, they can pop the disruptor field for the 4-up invuln as well to shooting. I feel like I've played games with them. They're very vulnerable to combat because they can't disrupt a shield in combat.
Yeah,
they just die because they're only 1 wound now. They used to be like 3 wounds at some point. I don't know when that was, but there was a point where they were 3 wounds. They have their most interesting rule is the tome skull, which is like, I guess, the servo skulls that they've typically had.
Yeah.
You get 1 per 6 models. So if you have a unit of 12, you get 2 servo skulls that you can use at the start of any phase, and a unit within 6 either loses battle shock or has to take battle shock.
That's kind of cute.
And it doesn't say that you can only use 1 skull per phase. So you can that 1 unit can just put double battle shock on a unit at the start of a phase.
Yeah.
Or maybe I actually can't remember if it's restricted, but even if you can't do it in the same phase, you could do it over 2 phases.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful to be able to cause so many battle shock tests. In inquisitorial agents, there's not many opportunities to reduce leadership. Like we talked about that 1 relic. I think it was the what was it? The Grimoire of True Names.
Yep.
And that was in a shitty detachment. But if you're allying this unit into another Imperial army that has like the ability to lower leadership and to do battle shock shenanigans, having a unit of 12 of these guys, it's only 100 points, and you have 2 battle shock tests you can do.
Yeah.
Like, I actually think it's kind of interesting.
I do think it's kind of interesting. It's more of a utility shenanigan unit than anything that's going to do real damage, though.
Yeah,
right?
I could imagine some very strong players dabbling with these guys in like Dark Angels or in armies that have the ability to reduce leadership and to make it so that those battle shock tests become more difficult. So I expect at some point to see people running them, but the question then becomes, is it worth? Is it still too swingy? Even if you are -1, is it still too swingy? So
fair. All right, on to breaches. I do quite like breaches. They're toughness 3 with a 4-up save.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I'd say they're a bread and butter unit of this codex.
Me too. Yeah, they are the guardsmen of this codex, and they have a pretty good data sheet. Like, they have a lot of rules. They got breaching team. Each time this unit makes an attack reroll wound roll of 1. If they're on an objective, 4 rerolls to wound. And then once per battle, you can select this unit as a target of the grenade stratagem, and then you can target enemy units visible and within 18 instead of 8. Which is awesome. And then once per battle, when this unit is selected to shoot until the end of the phase, you get ignores cover. So you've got all these cool little abilities tacked onto what is ostensibly a guardsman unit with some extra T's and C's. Because like you can have a freaking chain fist in here for some reason. You can have one guy that has a 4-up invulnerable save. You can have a couple of spicy special weapons. You can have a demo charge, which I actually love because it's assault blast at D6 shots. Strength 9 -2 damage. Only hits on flyers, but there's so many ways to buff that. And then, of course, it's real to wound as well.
I think what's interesting, the demo charge is good, but I'll talk about it when we get to Rogue Trader Entourage next. But having one guy with a Storm Shield is pretty good. Just the 4-up invuln.
Yeah.
But also, just the base profile of their weapons, it's just, basically a 2-shot shotgun.
Yeah.
So their basic weapon, the Navis shotgun, is assault, and then it's 12-inch range, 2 shots, 4-up to hit, strength 4, no AP. So it's not great, but if you buff it with the ability of the close barrage strat for AP1, it's ignoring cover either from Kodiaz or from their own Guy Skull or from
The strat. Yep.
Not, is it the Guy Skull that does that? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the cat unit does that. But yeah, whatever. Then suddenly you're rerolling wounds, and you might trickle through enough wounds to surprise an opponent.
Yeah.
In combination with other units, and they kind of become annoying as well because then they can access the disruptor field. If they've got a rogue trader join them, they can resurrect models, so you can resurrect that Storm Shield guy. They actually start to become a problem, and I think from what and to me, it's the obvious. If you're running the fleet detachment, breaches with rogue traders it's like a bit of a match made in heaven. So even when I was saying, breaches, you put like your Inquisitor, you put Draxus, you put all these units in breaches. You're kind of better off just putting rogue traders in.
Yeah. Yep.
So we can move to the rogue trader if you want.
Let's do it. This is my favorite. So it comes with the actual rogue trader, which is a 4-wound toughness 3 character. Does the whole thing have a 4-up invulnerable save, or just the other models?
They all have it.
They've all got a 4-up invuln. Man, this army gives out 4-up invulns like candy. They're only OC1. The other models that aren't the rogue trader have 2 wounds each, also with a 4-up invuln. They have a variety of different stuff. You could almost think of this unit as like a quarter of the Archon. It's got like one of kind of everything. You've got a rogue trader, you've got a death cult assassin, you've got a electromeister, you've got a rejuvenate adept. The special rules are backroom deals. If your army contains one or more units with this ability during the declared battle formation step, select one of those units. While this selected unit is leading a unit, models in the unit have the infiltrators ability. So, they're just giving out infiltrators. And then warrant of trade. If your army includes one or more units with this ability, after both players have deployed their army, select up to D3 Imperium battle line units from your army and redeploy them. When doing so, those units can be set up in strategic reserve without increasing the number in strategic reserve. And then healing serum is the war guru ability. At the start of your command phase, if the bearer's unit is below starting strength, you can return D3 models, excluding characters. This thing is a banger.
So it's the healing serum is what makes this broken.
Yeah, it is.
So just to before we won't go through like every single weapon, but like for example, even the Death Cult Assassin has a dart mask that shoots. Well, it only shoots once, but it's not bad. It's a D3 damage precision pistol. It's like they all kind of have reasonable shooting. It kind of adds into the breaches. So we said the breaches just have a plethora of little shots. This adds more shots in, so it kind of complements that shooting. That if you are popping close range barrage on them, you are going to get like respectable damage out of them.
Correct. And that 4-up invuln idiot with the shield is going to keep coming back to life as well.
Yeah. So what happens here is obviously the rogue trader himself is not. You can't allocate damage to him. You don't want to. You don't want to allocate damage to the guy that resurrects. So he's the rejuvenate adept. But you are more than happy to allocate damage to the Death Cult Assassin or the Electromeister. So that means that if you combine those two ablative wounds, the Death Cult and Electro, with that Endurant guy with the 4-up invuln in the breach unit, it gives you 3 models that all have 4-up invulns. The Rogue Trader Entourage guys have 2 wounds.
Correct.
You keep allocating damage to them where it's relevant, like when you want to, and then you keep resurrecting them.
Correct. So you got 5 wounds of value that you get back on a 5 or a 6 when you resurrect.
Yeah, and obviously the beauty of it is you can save those ones for combat damage, and you can use the what's it called? The disruptor field to shooting attacks and give all your plebs 4-up invulns.
4-ups, yeah, man.
So when you get shot, you take a 4-up, you use that, and you take all your normal breaches as casualties. Then they charge you, and then you start taking 4-up invulns on your 3 guys with shields. And then you start resurrecting. You're still alive. Like it's a unit that is really annoying. I'm not saying it is amazing, but the thing is that let's look at the points, because people are probably thinking like, oh, this doesn't sound that good. The breaches are only, I think they're 85 points.
Yeah.
In the field manual, and I think the entourage is 65, maybe 75, 70. I don't know. It's like 150 points for the unit or something.
It's sick. Like it's not that much. A sick unit. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's for its cost, it is a surprisingly annoying unit that can come on from strat reserves. It can shoot, blast something, be there. It can infiltrate because they can make themselves infiltrate. They can be kind of front field. they're just kind of cool. They got a lot. They're very interesting. I think they're a good unit, and I think you're going to see these styles of detachments probably running, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three of these units.
Yep. How do you feel about Voidsmen at Arms?
I just think that they're worse than Breaches. I don't think you're going to see them.
No, I think they're vastly worse than Breaches. Whereas Breaches have like 3 special rules and a war gear thing, and this and that and the other. Voidsmen at Arms simply have shoot the closest unit, get lethal hits.
They're just better as allies when you want a cheap,
That's exactly
unit.
right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So we can move on from them pretty quick. How about the Vigilant Squad?
Look, man, I personally think that of the 3 AOWdu's units, I mean, I might be missing something, but the Vigilant Squad and the Exaction Squad, which are the ones that shoot, to me, they're both worse than Breaches.
Agreed.
So unless I just can't see in what world, unless they make another detachment in the future that, applies to the AOWdu's. And I mean, some of the other detachments did apply to the AOWdu's. So if they buff the other detachments, maybe you might see people looking at these squads. But if you're looking through the lens of probably playing the fleet detachment, you just wouldn't take these over Breaches. So I think that in my opinion, Vigilance and Exaction squads are just inferior. However, the Subductor squad, which is the one with the close combat weapons and the storm shields, that's actually quite a good unit.
Let's talk it up. Let's do it. So they are toughness 3. Man, another 4-up invulnerable save unit of toughness 3 idiots. They just, like I said, 4-up invulnerable saves like candy. Dedication to duty is their special ability. Each time model this unit is destroyed by a melee attack, if they haven't fought, 4+ fight on death. And then
they're really annoying. The best thing about them is that they're just cheap with a 4-up invuln.
Correct.
They don't hit that hard, but they're, you're on it. Like the way I see them, I think they pair really well with like a Sisters of Battle unit that stickies an objective.
Yep.
So you stick an objective with a small Sisters unit, then you have that Sisters unit and this unit on the objective. You might ring the 5-man Sisters unit with the 10 Subductors so that they can't charge the Sisters.
Yep.
And then the Subductors need to be dealt with. But then the problem is they have this rule called Annuncio Aquila. Once per battle at the start of any command phase, you can select one objective marker within 6 of the bearer. All enemy units, excluding monsters and vehicles, within range of that objective marker must take a battle shock test. Each objective marker can only be targeted by this ability once per turn. What that means is if your opponent wants to flip, like if they've got that JPI unit that wants to take you off an objective, they can't go in because unless they're going to kill every Subductor, you could just make them fail a battle shock test and make them OC 0.
Yes.
So I just think that rule makes them really annoying. Like they become a really annoying unit to deal with, especially when they're ringing a unit of 5 Sisters that sticky the objective.
I think they're cool. Yeah, genuinely think they're cool. And it's also good to have some units in your army.
And like I bought some boxes of them. I've got I think 2 or 3 units. Like I've got 2 units ready, but I wouldn't like. I don't think there's a world where I play some more games with them and drop them because they're actually not very good at fighting. They're very mediocre at fighting.
Well, they got 2 attacks hitting on 4s at 4/1/1.
Yeah,
they're a crude.
Yeah, they're very disappointing when you look at the model and you go, oh, this guy looks badass. Like he looks like he's going to really like club someone to death, but they don't really hurt anything. Yeah. But they're kind of one of the better prattle units in the army.
I love that term, prattle unit. All right, we're going to have to move on for the sake of time. Next up is Greynart Terminators. You know what they do. We're not going to bother you. Then Watch Captain Artemis. Unless you think he's very good, we're going to move on to the Watchmaster.
I will say, I know, but he's a unit people are talking about taking just as an ally because he comes back on a 2-up and he's cheap.
And he's got a 6-up Field of Pain with 4 wounds and a 4+ involved.
So he's like, it's worth looking at him through the lens of like, as an actual ally, but as he's not very different from what we already know. So he's just an interesting look as an ally as well.
Watchmaster is exactly the same as it was before. You still get advance and charge, or fall back and charge.
Yeah, so you probably want these. Yeah, you probably want if you're running the Death Watch detachment, you're going to want like 3 of these.
They're sick. They're still sick.
Yeah, if you're running a fleet detachment, you probably still want 1 or 2 because you want that Deathwatch brick that's infiltrating to have advance and charge.
Yep.
So I think they're good. It's probably one of the best points. The Watchmaster has never been this good because he's never given the unit advance and charge, as far as I know.
Oh, really? Sorry, didn't give that before. Apologies.
I don't know. Did he? I don't remember. I don't know if he did. I can't remember. Maybe he did.
I'll open up the.
Maybe he did.
The stuff, but tell us about the kill teams, and it's going to take us a while to unpack the kill teams. So, yeah, no, he still get the same thing. Is eligible to shoot, declare a charge.
He did that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think you summed it up at the start, man. Like they're a good unit, but they're nothing to write home about through the lens of like actual Marines.
Yeah.
It's just that in this army, they are very good. There are some armies that don't have access to Marines, like that want to, like, so an Imperial Guard army, for example, who normally take Bulgren.
Yeah. They
might want to take a Deathwatch kill team to have like a combat threat.
I have very much considered it, sir, and I might.
Yeah, so they're interesting through that lens. What I like about them is that their heavy Thunderhammers have 3 damage.
Yeah, they're sick.
So they're 3 attacks each. In a unit of 10, you can have 4 heavy Thunderhammers. So that's 12 attacks at 3 damage. It's a little bit like disappointing if they're not buffed. So if you take them in that Guard army, they're just I think they're a little bit mediocre because they're not really accessing any buffs.
Yeah, they get like, I mean, if you take a watch captain who doesn't get any stratagems to make 0 apart from like what grenade, reroll a charge. That's pretty much it. And yeah, you don't get access to much juice.
So they hit on 4s, like the hammers. They're just a bit. But if you put them in an Imperialist fleet detachment, suddenly they can have +1 to hit. They can have sustained hits. They can have lance. Now they're going in and wounding like little knights on 3s with dev wounds, 3 damage. Like they'll actually easily pick up a war dog, maybe even 2 over if you include all the other attacks. So they're actually pretty interesting.
Well, they're multimodal as well because you can have a bunch of frag cannons in the same unit, right?
You can, yeah.
I think they're sick. They still have their same ability, I believe, which reroll hit rolls are 1 all the time. If the attack does not, so the attacking target doesn't have Imperium or Chaos, full rerolls to hit instead, which is just fine. Yeah, just quite a good rule. We do have to move on for the sake of time. Corvus Blackstar is still here and still terrible. Then we get to the assassins. So the reason I'm pushing us along is because we need to unpack all the assassins because they are all pretty spicy. Calidus is up first. Pretty much, you know what she does in combat. I'm just going to tell you what she's still got. She's got Deep Strike, fights first, Infiltrators, Lone Up. At the end of the fight phase, this is an acrobatic escape. If this model is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, it can make a fallback move up to D6. In addition, at the end of your opponent's turn, if this model is not within 3 of 1 or more enemy units, you can move it from the battlefield, and then in the reinforcement stage, you move its turn. Yeah, then Deep Strike's back in 9 inches away. If the battle ends, not on the table, you're destroyed. And then Reign of Confusion. Once per battle, after your opponent uses a stratagem, this model can use this ability. If it does, until the strat, 1 more CP. But that pretty much delineates that she has the aura. She has the Vector aura now. So 12-inch aura of See You Later, Alligator, costs 1 more. How do you feel about the Calidus now? Of course, you do have it can't be your Warlord. And if you're aging the Imperium during the declared battle formation step, you can replace this model with a different Officio Assassin Aura model, provided the total points value of the new model does not exceed the points value of the model it replaced. Your army cannot include duplicates of the same model, blah, 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 blah. Calidus.
Yeah, it's good, man. Like it's the same as very similar to what it was. It's very effective at what it does. It hasn't gone up in cost. It fights well. It's just good across the board.
Yeah. It's totally good. Neural Shredder is still anti-infantry 2+ with precision, still a flamer. In combat, still got 5 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 5, AP 4, 2 damage, lethal hits, and precision as well. I think she's sick. I think she's really good. I had a Vector Aura ruin my day against our mate Matt Morrisoli at an event. I ended up, paying out the teeth for Overwatch and Tank Shock and stuff because I didn't have another option. So I think Calidus is still very, very good. Tell us about the Eversaw, who is now what the Solitaire wishes it was.
Yeah, I'm not as sold as other people are on it, but it does what you would think a Eversaw should do. It goes in, It has the Friends On ability, which gives it the advance and charge. Shoot, advance and charge. But overkill once per battle in your movement phase. This model can use this ability before it makes a normal move, so it can't advance. But if it does, it gains 6 to its move characteristic and add 3 to its attacks. So it's going to move 15 if it pops that. It also has the ability to scout. Is it 9? Let's have a look.
Yeah, scout 9. That's correct.
Scout 9. So it's scouting up 9 and then moving 15 and charging. So it can go in really early and mess something up. If it does add the 3 to its attacks, it goes from 6 to 9 attacks.
Nice.
Hits on 2s with anti-infantry 3+. Strength 5, precision, AP2, 2 damage, sustained hits 3.
3. So on 9 attacks, you're not unlikely to have 1 or 2 misses, but also 1 or 2 6s. So let's say you have 7 hits, but 2 of them are 6s. Oh my, it's 11 hits.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it statistically means you're going to be hitting more than the amount of dice you roll.
Correct. I think it's sick, and I really want to play. I wish you could take 2, because I have 2 that I Kit Bash built, and I love them both. I'll never be able to run them together again.
Yeah, I don't know about that rule about making them epic heroes, but anyway, it's very good at just going in and picking up a character. Like if you're like, you know what, I'm happy to lose this guy, but my opponent, if I just kill that one character, it stuffs his whole plans up.
Yeah,
it's going to kill a character with all of that attacks with precision. It will kill a regular character.
The best thing I think it can do is, like, first turn, just scout up into a problem like little nook and just freaking sit there. And everyone knows that it's got an average of 22-inch threat range, moving 15, charging 7. It's an average of 22, and you just get it just scout it into a problem place on the table and be like, stay out, or your character is instant dead. And if not, just your unit as well. So I really like it for that. But you're right. The points right now, I think it's 120.
It used to be a lot. Yeah, it's gone up a bit for allied units. It's also, it used to be kind of tough. I don't like it in previous versions. It's only 4 wounds with a 4-up invul now. Like
it's just dead.
Will die afterwards. Yeah,
it's a missile. It's a 1 use only. It's a hunter killer Eversaw. 1 use only. Calexis Assassin. So it's got some interesting stuff here. One of the guys at your team event took a Calexis this weekend. I'm actually interested to know how it did.
Well, that was because I mean, it's not because I told him. I spruiked it. He initially had the Calexis in his list.
Mate, spruik it to me too. Let's go.
I like it, man. I think it could be the best the Calexis has been in a long time.
Since 7th edition, when it just was
when it had
edition.
That just
yeah.
Well, it had that just the aura of turning off psychic powers was just broken, but it's a lot more versatile now into other things. So into Psychers, like it has a 2+ feel no pain against psychic attacks. That's kind of heinous.
In teams, it's heinous, absolutely. You're just Grey Knights and Thousand Suns.
Yeah, man. And if you've got someone, I know, and if you're playing Imperial Agents, and you can sub this guy into your list, like you could swap out a Calidus for him, you absolutely would into certain matchups. So 2-up FNP versus psych attacks. Like I've rolled Magnus into him, shooting and fighting, and not killed him.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
With the 2-up FNP.
Is a third the cost?
But let's assume that you're not, if you're taking him as a more generalist fighter, like he fights okay. He's got a shooting weapon, 3 attacks, hits on 2, strength 5, AP2, D3 damage with anti-psychic 2-up, assault, precision, psychic assassin, which means that each time you select a psyker for this weapon, until those attacks are resolved, you get 6 attacks instead of 3.
Yep.
So very good at sniping psychers, but even notwithstanding that, it's still okay. In combat, 4 attacks hitting on 2, strength 4, AP2, 2 damage, with devastating wounds, anti-psychic 2-up, precision. So he will just give psychers in combat. Like he'll kill librarians, he'll kill kind of Thousand Sun sorcerers. But what I like most about him is his combination of, it's the etheric emergence rule combined with soulless horror. So etheric emergence is when this model is set up, it can perform an etheric emergence. If it does, this model can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 away horizontally from enemy units, but until the end of the turn, it is not eligible to charge. So that's already good just as a action monkey.
Yep.
Being able to do a 3-inch deep strike and then do an action or a secondary while having a lone op. Like that's quite a
really
useful ability. So if you draw, behind enemy lines, or you draw Locus, I'm just going to put him in your backfield and do Locus and get behind enemy lines, and you can't really just kill him. So like that alone is good, and that's why, like I was saying, he's got utility outside of his anti-psyker abilities. But also he has the once per battle ability, Soulless Horror. At the start of any command phase, this model can use this ability. If it does, each enemy unit within 9 must take the Battle Shock test, subtracting 1 from that test, or
it's
2
sick.
if that unit is a psyker.
It's sick.
So it's like a once per game Shadows in the Warp aura ability kind of thing.
This is the thing, like against Thousand Suns, you deep strike onto their home objective, you snipe out the Arcane Vortex, Infernal Master, and then the start of their command phase, you pop this and like deny them a bunch of primary points. And then you're just the biggest pain in the ass to kill. I actually think you're onto something. I think the Colossus is sick.
Yeah, and it's at certain levels of play, especially like in a team event, where you're really not playing just for yourself, you're playing for others. Who wants to go back to their team and say, there was that one turn, he denied me primary, and because I was battle shocked, I couldn't do this, and it ended up costing me it cost me 2 points in the end. So instead of getting a 12-8 loss, I got a 14-6 because of that one Colexus. Like, it means that suddenly when you're trying to defend objectives, you're going to be trying to defend objectives with multiple units, like you would against Tyranids, or try to screen out his drop. But it's really hard to screen out a 3-inch drop.
Can you, when you set up the battlefield using deep strike ability, does that mean you can rapid ingress 3 inches away? Because oh my, that makes things very spicy. We'll have to put that on the FAQ watch, because that's a whole other entire, like, using my brain, I have to be really worried kind of situation. That's very painful.
Well, you could be right onto something there, because normally the reason why you can't do the 3-inch deep strikes with rapid ingress is because they use stratagems, and those stratagems are used in your own movement phase. So yeah, you could just be right. It could just work because it doesn't
says the deep strike ability, and you can use rapid ingress.
Yeah, I think you might be right. We should give it a 3-inch ingress.
That's spicy as hell.
Yeah, man. I think this guy. I genuinely think there's an argument that he's as good as the Calidus.
You absolutely sold me, mate. All right, Vindicare is up last and does look a lot better. And this is going to be the last data sheet we do, because the next ones are just the sisters ones, and they're all just the same as the sisters ones. I've got to tell you about the shooting now, because this is the only reason you take this guy. His Exodus rifle, which is the important one, is devastating wounds, heavy, ignores cover, and precision. 48-inch range, single shot. Hitting on 2s at strength 8 -3, D3 +3 damage. In melee, he is absolute gutter trash. Like in melee, he's 2 subductors. Obviously, though, infiltrators line up in stealth.
At least he has a pistol, though. He can shoot into combat with his pistol.
Yeah, which is strength 6 -2, 3 damage with the same keywords I just read for the rifle. Deadshot is one of the special abilities. Each time this model makes a range attack, when selecting targets for that attack, you can ignore the lone operative's ability. And then Shield Breaker, once per battle, when selecting targets for this model's Exodus rifle, it can fire the Shield Breaker round. If it does, until the end of the phase, each time models makes an attack with this weapon, add 1 to the wound roll, and any successful wound scores a critical wound. So once per game, any wound, which against pretty much any infantry character in the game, is going to be a 2+, because I don't think there's an infantry character that's toughness 8. So they're going to be toughness 7 or less, and you're going to +1 to wound. And then it'll just be a 2+ to D3 +3 dev wound them. I wish it had a stock anti-character something. Like the fact, it kind of pisses me off that it's not just anti-character 4+ on its guns, because it's got everything else. It's got dev wounds, heavy, ignores cover, precision. Don't know why it needs its heavy when it hits on 2s, and maybe you got -1 to hit. But how do you feel about the Vindicare? I mean, it's vastly better, but I still don't think it's that good.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It goes to show how the sniper rules just, it's hard at the moment because people just hide their characters in ruins and stop you from seeing them.
Yeah, when are you ever going to see somebody's character they don't want you to see?
I know, and he doesn't have. He used in the past. There's been editions where all assassins have just had the deep strike rule.
Yeah,
he doesn't have it, so you're not. They're not going to. If you deploy him, they're not going to give the line of sight. And if you outflank him, that at least gives him a capacity to draw a line of sight. It's just you also kind of there's worlds where you just fail the hit roll, and then you're like, well, I guess I have to spend the CP. And you're going to feel bad if you fail that wound roll. I mean, it's unlikely, but it is good in that I feel like the problem with it is into most characters don't have 4 wounds. They have 5 or 6 wounds. So when you're doing the D3 plus 3 damage, there's a fail point in the damage as well.
Well, that's what shoots me. It shoots me a lot, actually, because a Lictor has 6 wounds and is 55 points. And this guy, on average, will not kill that guy. May not kill that guy with 2 shots. Sorry, will kill that guy with 2 shots. But you know what I mean? Like, it's a freaking Lictor. This should be what this guy can one-shot, and he pretty much will one-shot it like a third of the time.
Yeah, I don't rate him. I think that it's just the only world where you take him, I think, is if you're also taking some other characters that have precision. Like maybe if you do actually take old mate, what's her name? The other one.
You take enough precision to make them respect it. And this guy would be one piece of that, because I would not respect this guy. I would entirely disrespect this dude, and I don't think he would matter.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're taking like Grey Fax, and if you've got Grey Fax and a couple of other precision abilities, then maybe, but nah.
Well, it's like, I mean, every good character's got like a 4 or a 5 of invuln. It's like a one shot, like, just cool. I'll use you didn't use your once per game. I guess I'll just CP reroll the 4 of invuln if you didn't use your critical wound thing with the devs. But anyway, that is the end of our review. Enjoy your 2 freaking hours of content, you lovely ducks. In totality, mate, what are your closing thoughts on this book? And then we'll give it our rating system out of the old 10.
I think it's interesting. I think they've done a lot of positives with it. They've actually had a good attempt at turning it into an army that can play. I think they missed the mark of not having like inquisitorial stormtroopers.
Absolutely did.
Like, why don't they? I know it's because they don't have a kit, right? Like, but they could have just said, Scions or whatever.
I mean,
like,
dude, that's not an excuse though, because Sisters and Deathwatch kill teams and Grey Knights all got their kits transposed over. There's no reason for them not to be Tempesta Scions, Inquisitorial Scions in this.
Yeah, because like there's some of the coolest, like, kind of like those black clad stormtroopers that are going like getting out of transport ships and paratrooping in or whatever. Like, it's so cool. So then not to have those is a shame. But nonetheless, I think they've made a really strong effort. I think they need to buff some of the other detachments to make them more viable. But all in all, people like myself that have been waiting for an army like this to drop have enough to work with to give it a shot and play with some cool kind of like the leadership shenanigans, the movement shenanigans. It's a fun army. It's just a shame that there's the data sheets they're drawing on are so poor that if the nerfs kind of hit, like, because I've got a feeling they might nerf the Deathwatch kill teams. If they nerf them, that it's going to like kill the army. Yeah. So I'm concerned that in the same way with Thousand Sons, it's been really hard for them to balance Thousand Sons because the whole army is like 3 or 4 data sheets. With this army, if they nerf the wrong thing and they just go, let's just make kill teams cost 240 points or 230 points, whatever, it just will kill the army. So.
I agree, mate. All right, time to give us our rating system, then we're out of here. So out of 10, how happy are you with this book?
I'll give it a 7.
How happy should Imperial Agents lovers be with this book?
Yeah, I think 7. I think as allies, there's actually some interesting options. Some assassins have gotten better. Some little units that you can ally in are kind of cool. The fact that like you can ally in Sisters of Battle units with sticky objectives for any army is kind of cool. So there's little packages that you can ally into that makes things interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it could have. I think there could have been more. There could have been a bit more spice that just was lacking. But maybe that's just the 10th edition kind of flavor of things of being a little bit more general.
Man, you are way nicer than I am, because I'm going to give this like a 3 out of 10. So how happy people will be with this, just because apart from one very playable and very good detachment, this book is hollow as crap. It's Like it was such a wasted opportunity in my mind where that everything could be as cool and flavorful as the fleet detachment. But what it is right now, it is one detachment and a couple of index trash that doesn't even warrant people trying to make lists out of.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
So I'm sorry. You should definitely listen to Jez though, because I am very where do you so the best list that can come from this? Where do you think it ranks on the tier list? So from S tier to like D or D tier.
Yeah. So the best list is I know you want to do that next in this other segment, but if you're doing an inquisitorial, a fleet detachment with some kill teams, with some breacher units, with some navigators and the rogue traders, you end up, I think, probably B tier.
I think low B, high C is where I think the best will end up from this. And that's with people putting a lot of reps in as well. I don't think this is an army that anybody can pick up and just do well with. I think this is going to take some dedication, but I reckon there's enough meat on the bone for the best list here to actually get some pretty good results and be pretty satisfying to play.
Yeah, I think it's going to play a little bit like NIDS, in that people, like very good players, will have a solid go at it and have fun with it. But when you boil down to it, the data sheets are weak, and that will be the fail point for a lot of people.
Yeah. That's where the player skill comes in. You have good rules on weak units, and you have to be good to get the most out of the two together. But anyway, that's going to finish us up. We just crossed the 2-hour mark. I did not think we would be able to talk this long on Imperial Agents, and the time just flew out of us. So hopefully you absolutely adore this episode. There should be a song coming up in about 30 seconds from my brother. Hopefully you enjoy that song too. Thank you so much to people who have reached out and said that they've enjoyed this new addition to the show. But Jez, anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
No, thanks for having me as always, Adam, and thanks for everyone's constant support of the hobby and really getting around this edition. I think that it's really starting to just following the Champions Cup that's just finished is really exciting, and seeing so much collaboration across clubs, across nations. I think 40K is actually starting to ascend to a new point now. So just keep it up, keep the enthusiasm going. Congratulations, obviously, to those content creators that are really allowing for the scene to really kind of come together in a way that allows people to continue to make innovations to pull us towards a real competitive hobby.
Brilliant, mate. Couldn't have said it better. All right, enjoy the song, Stand the Other Side. Join us on part 2. Take care and good night.
See ya.
At the head of the table.